Pixar's Up is a masterpiece. Whether it's the endearing characters, the iconic aesthetic, or the incredible opening 10 minutes which leaves every viewer in tears, there is a lot to love about Up which contribute to making it a near perfect film. But there is more to Up than just an indescribable charm. What makes this film so truly special is the careful construction that went into every aspect of the film. And in particular, I'd like to talk to you about the incredible use of symbolism in Up, which allow its themes to really hit home and touch the very core of our emotions. There's 3 themes in particular which stand out in Up, and we'll be looking at how consistent and recurring symbols keep these themes at the forefront of our minds throughout. The first theme is the spirit of adventure. The second, Carl's obsession with his house. And the third is Russell's desire to be a great wilderness explorer. Let's start first then with arguably the most important thematic message of Up, that life is an adventure that we all need to live to its fullest.
How? Adventure is out there!
The spirit of adventure takes on both a literal and metaphorical meaning in Up. Literal because it is the name of the dirigible that Charles Muntz owns, something we will return to in a minute. But more widely, it is the idea of adventure that first brings Carl and Ellie together.
Adventure is
Adventure is out there. It is telling that these are Ellie's first words in the film, parroting what she heard Muntz say in the newsreel she presumably watched just like Carl did. This is also Ellie's message to Carl throughout the film, from the start and even when she's not a physical presence on screen. While Carl may also be a lover of adventure, we see their personalities contrast in how they actually follow through on this love. Carl is a dreamer, happy to merely fantasize to himself about the thought of adventure.
He hurdles Pikes Peak. He hurdles the Grand Canyon. He hurdles Mount Everest. He goes around Mount Everest.
Though he is lured by the charm of adventure, he's ultimately too afraid to take a risk that might actually end up hurting him. When we first meet him, he is hesitant, timid, and passive. Ellie, when we first meet her, is the absolute opposite. She's impulsive, decisive, and takes every opportunity for adventure she can grasp.
What are you doing? Ah! Don't you know this is an exclusive club? Only explorers get in here. Not just any kid off the street with a helmet and a pair of goggles. Do you think you got what it takes? Well, do you? Yeah. All right, you're in. Welcome aboard.
This influence on Carl sees him start to actually act on his desires too. Though adventuring may sometimes hurt, Ellie encourages Carl to never stop trying still. This is, of course, what makes their marriage work. The coming together of 2 contrasting types of people bound by the same goal. The recurring imagery I'd like to point out here is the use of balloons. It is Carl's balloon that first sends him on an adventure with Ellie.
Go ahead. Go on.
And as he's recovering, it is a balloon that Ellie floats into his room to cheer him up. Notice as well what's written on the balloon. As they grow older, Carl runs a balloon stand, and so balloons become a physical symbol for the spirit of adventure. While Carl and Ellie's marriage is thriving, balloons are a frequent sight, reflecting the buoyant joy in both their lives. Why balloons, you might ask? Well, besides the visual appeal, they are in many ways a perfect fit for the childlike belief in adventure that Ellie holds. They are simple and pure. If you let them, they will soar without limit. And this is the motto that Ellie seems to live by. But of course, then comes the first turning point of the film, Ellie's illness and eventual death. Try as he may, Carl is not able to help Ellie beat this obstacle to adventure, and as she tragically passes away, all that Carl is left with is those balloons. Once a symbol of joy, now a hollow representation of the emptiness in his life. Before we go further and track the evolution of this theme throughout the film, I'd like to pause to talk about the other symbols that appear at this point. As the film reaches its new normal, 2 new themes appear. One consistent symbol in Up is obviously the house itself, but more broadly, we start to see that Carl's attachment with the physical objects inside the house is because he sees them as some sort of manifestation of Ellie herself. After Ellie dies, Carl fixates himself on the only things he has left of her: the house they made together, the adventure book she gives him, and the furniture inside the house, like the chairs they used to sit on. He starts to treat these things as companions of sorts, and throughout the film, he speaks to the house as if it were Ellie that he was speaking to.
Quite a sight, huh, Ellie? What do I do now, Ellie? What have I got myself into, Ellie?
In his mind, these things are now the same. So when Carl adamantly fights to keep his house from turning into a mall, what we are seeing is not an old man who is necessarily resisting change. We're seeing a heartbroken husband who's unable to let go of his wife's death.
This is serious! He's out to get your house!
Tell your boss he can have our house. Really? When I'm dead.
For Carl, the idea of adventuring is inseparably tied to Ellie. She was his adventure, and without her, the joy in his life is drained. He has no desire to adventure any further. That is, until a certain call to arms comes knocking at his door.
Good afternoon. My name is Russell, and I am a wilderness explorer.
As Russell arrives, he brings with him the call of a new adventure. And although it's the fear of being sent to a retirement home that eventually spurs Carl to up and lift his house, it is his journey with Russell that will actually change his life. But Russell is not without baggage of his own. And like Carl, he too is missing something in his life that he needs to fulfill him. This is where our final recurring symbol arrives: Russell's sash and that one empty spot where his assisting the elderly badge needs to go.
You may notice one is missing. It's my assisting the elderly badge.
Though we do not realize it till much later in the film, Russell is not so concerned about actually gaining the Wilderness Explorer badge as he is about the ceremony where it will be presented to him. He does give us a hint when we first meet him, but it's only much later in the film that we realize what's going on.
It's gonna be great. There's a big ceremony, and all the dads come, and they pin on our badges.
The gap on Russell's sash is more than just a literal one. It is the metaphorical gap in his life left by his father, who once bonded with Russell over their love for the outdoors, but now is barely around anymore.
Well, he's away a lot. I don't see him much.
Russell's desperation to get that badge simply reflects his deep desire to force his father to spend time with him, knowing that he would have to come to present Russell with his final badge. This is the beauty of Up, and good storytelling in general. What Carl and what we as the audience initially see as the pesterings of an annoying Boy Scout are really the desperate gestures of a young boy hoping to reconnect with his father. And it is only after a magical journey do we all understand this. So, our two broken characters have now met, and they set off on an adventure that will see them find what they were missing all along in each other. Once again, the imagery of balloons reappears in the film as Carl shows that spirit of adventure once more. That near insane spontaneity that Ellie would have been proud of. It's important to remember here that Carl is not looking for a new adventure. His goal is to simply finish what Ellie started. His inspiration for this act is based on fulfilling Ellie's dream of reaching Paradise Falls, which is why it is so important for Carl to take the house with him. In his mind, he is taking Ellie to her real final resting place, and presumably his own. Because while it's never explicitly discussed in the film, Carl must have been prepared to finish his life right there on top of Paradise Falls, because he has no real return plan.
We're on our way, Ellie.
This is, again, why Russell's presence is so important. He gives Carl a reason to return and a reason to go on, even if initially it feels like a chore to him.
We'll get you down, find a bus stop. You just tell the man you want to go back to your mother.
As they arrive at Paradise Falls, fun and shenanigans begin to ensue as we're introduced to Kevin, Doug, and the rest of the dog pack. Though, like he does with Russell, Carl initially finds these new companions irksome, they begin to push him towards a new adventure, towards a renewed sense of hope and purpose. And as they begin to get closer, we are subtly presented with the conflict that Carl will eventually have to resolve. As they're talking around the campfire, Carl realizes why Russell is so keen on getting this last badge of his.
Well, why didn't you ask your dad how to build a tent?
I don't think he wants to talk about this stuff.
Well, why don't you try him sometime? Maybe he'll surprise you.
Well, he's away a lot. I don't see him much.
He's got to be home sometime.
Well, I called, but Phyllis told me I bug him too much.
Phyllis, you call your own mother by her first name?
Phyllis isn't my mom.
Oh.
Carl now begins to realize that Russell is really here to win his father back, not a badge.
But he promised he'd come to my Explorer ceremony to pin on my Assisting the Elderly badge.
And as Russell makes Carl promise that he will take Kevin back home, he makes an utterance that presents Carl with a very real problem.
Promise you won't leave him?
Yeah.
Cross your heart?
Cross your heart.
Cross your heart. Do it!
By uttering the same words that Ellie always did, Carl is now given a glimpse of the choice he will soon have to make.
Cross my heart.
Does he listen to this new call to adventure, presented by someone who represents all the youthful ideals that he and Ellie cherished? Or does he cling on stubbornly to his house and obsess over the adventure that has run its course? To solve this deeply personal dilemma, Carl is faced with the ultimate challenge, the re-emergence of Charles Muntz. After all, who better to test Carl's commitment to adventure than the man who inspired it in the first place? It's not a coincidence that as the literal spirit of adventure returns in the film, so does Carl's passion for it. Because Muntz is not just a villain, but a warning to Carl. He is the spirit of adventure gone wrong. Like Carl up until now, Muntz is obsessed with an adventure that has run its course.
They called me a fraud, those... But once I bring back this creature, my name will be cleared.
He is in fact so obsessed with hunting the bird that we now know to be Kevin, that he has forgotten why he adventured in the first place, to bring joy and amazing discoveries to people.
And how? Adventure is out there!
Where before he encouraged others to go and find adventures, he has now become selfish and self-obsessed, hoarding his discoveries and desperately looking for a way to repair his reputation. Adventure now for months has simply become about hollow trophies and personal gain.
Most of the collection is housed in the world's top museums, New York, Munich, London. Of course, I kept the best for myself.
It's interesting to note here that the symbol of badges reoccurs too. Right at the start of the film, we see that Muntz has his National Explorer Society badge ripped from his jacket, representing the tearing away of his reputation. And even years later, he too wears this prominent gap like a wound, much the way that Russell does with his sash. But again, where Russell will show growth later in the film, Muntz represents what happens when dreams become destructive.
You know, Carl, these people who pass through here, they all tell pretty good stories. A surveyor making a map, a botanist cataloging plants, an old man taking his house to Paradise Falls.
He threatens Carl by knocking over mannequins wearing goggles, another symbol that has always represented joyful curiosity and fantasy in the film. This is really what Carl finds so disturbing, and it's why he instantly knows to get away from it. Carl can see that this is not the Muntz that inspired him and his wife. The noble adventure hidden inside Carl is pulling towards Russell and the desire to protect Kevin, which is why he up and runs. But again, this comes at a cost. During their escape, more balloons start to break on Carl and Ellie's house. Carl's old adventure is starting to fall apart, and soon he will be asked to decide what he values more, helping Russell or fulfilling Ellie's dream. As they're recovering from their narrow escape, Russell once again provides Carl with some inadvertent insight.
That might sound boring, but I think the boring stuff is the stuff I remember the most.
While Carl is still determined to fulfill his grand gesture and get his house over to Paradise Falls, what Russell is alluding to, without realizing it, is that adventure doesn't always have to be grand, doesn't have to involve crazy trips across the world or death-defying stunts, because what he remembers most about Ellie is the little things too. It was not their wild adventures that made him fall in love, but simply the time they spent in each other's company. That was their greatest adventure. But love is a strong pull, and Carl is not ready to let go of it just yet. When the worst happens and Kevin is captured by months, Carl is forced to make a snap decision: let his house burn or save Kevin and fulfill his promise to Russell. In the heat of the moment, still obsessing over his old ideas, Carl chooses his house, or more accurately, he chooses Ellie. When Russell chastises Carl for his decision, we see him regress a little bit, defaulting back to becoming the grumpy old man who doesn't care about anyone.
You gave away Kevin. You just gave her away.
This is none of my concern. I didn't ask for any of this! Now, whether you assist me or not, I am going to Paradise Falls if it kills me!
Carl is ready to end his adventure here, alongside Ellie.
Here. I don't want this anymore.
Russell throws his sash down in anger, demonstrating how he's willing to let go of his obsession. The true meaning of adventure, especially the one that Ellie believed in, of being able to look beyond yourself and helping others, is something that Russell innately understands. He's more concerned about Kevin than he is about his own personal goals. Carl, however, is not ready to let go and feels he needs to get his house to Paradise Falls, which is why there's only one person who's capable of showing Carl the error of his ways: Ellie herself. Arriving at what he thinks is his fated destination, Carl feels he's finally fulfilled. To continue the symbolism from before, the first thing he does is set up his chairs so that they match what it looked like when Ellie was alive. Next, he picks up her adventure book for one last look. He's again reminded of Ellie's desires to explore the world, and particularly Paradise Falls. He thinks he's finally done what she wanted, only for the book to reveal that there was more on her mind. At this point, a viewer might ask, why did Carl never find these pages before? Why did he never go past this particular point? Well, the answer is simple. In his mind, this was the only definition of adventure. Flying to Paradise Falls, seeing this glorious sight, taking risks, and being gung-ho, Carl still believes that adventuring can only be done this way. But as the page turns, he realizes the final lesson that Ellie has given to him, that adventure is much more than that. As he looks through their lives spent together, Carl realizes that for Ellie, her dream stopped being about Paradise Falls a long time ago. As Russell reminded Carl earlier, for Ellie, it was about the little things. And thus, Ellie is able to send the love of her life one final message. Thanks for the adventure. Now go out there and have a new one. Crossing his heart again, Carl sets off to right the wrong he caused. And as Russell flies away, using those balloons once more to show the spirit of adventure in the right way, Carl is now left to make another snap decision. Should he help? This time, he doesn't hesitate to do the right thing. Carl begins to empty out the house, abandoning all those worldly possessions he once obsessed over, because he realizes now what is really important. Not the house that he and Ellie bought, nor all the furniture they kept inside it, but the memories and love they shared. Armed with this knowledge, he's able to finally let go, and he takes on his new adventure to save Russell. To draw attention to the fantastic use of imagery once more, Note that Carl dons Russell's sash. He has taken on Russell's dreams, and he's accepting his responsibility for him as his surrogate father figure. Heroically, he flies in, fighting Muntz to save Kevin and Russell. How he finally defeats Muntz is telling too. Put in his final fatal dilemma, Carl watches as the balloons once more begin to be shot down, representing the final death of his house and perhaps Ellie. As it starts to fall apart at the seams, Carl sees clearly what he must do. As he lets go of the house, Carl displays the final act of growth, letting go of his old ideals in favor of gaining something far more valuable.
That was cool!
And although Russell understands how much this must have hurt, Carl displays that he really has understood what Ellie's last message was to him.
Sorry about your house, Mr. Fredrickson.
You know, it's just a house.
As the film reaches its resolution, so do our symbols finally. But in true movie spirit, our characters win in ways they never expected. First, Russell's sash is finally filled. Not with the assisting the elderly badge and not by his father, but instead with Carl, who presents Russell with Ellie's prestigious grape soda badge.
I would like to award you the highest honor I can bestow. The Ellie badge.
This is more than just a nice gesture from Carl. Wow. It is the final sign that he is ready to move on from Ellie and give the place in his life that once belonged to her to someone else. He is accepting his role as a father figure in Russell's life.
Wilderness explorers. Ready, everybody?
Then we see the spirit of adventure quite literally now return to Carl, where it sits in the right hands, as him and Russell enjoy the little things that Russell used to with his father.
Mr. Fredrickson, you're cheating.
No, I'm not. Red one.
That's a fire hydrant.
Maybe I need new glasses.
And finally, we see the last image of the film, Carl and Ellie's house, sitting perfectly atop Paradise Falls. For Ellie's adventure is complete, and Carl has learned that while she may be gone, their love never will be. And for him, adventure is still out there. Thank you for watching this video. As you can see, this is the first upload on this channel, and I plan to upload more video essays on here regularly, discussing films, TV shows, anime, or just generally anything I feel like discussing. If you've enjoyed watching this content, then obviously liking, subscribing, and sharing would all be great ways of helping support this channel and allow me to create even more video essays that you would hopefully enjoy. However, if you would like to support me directly, then please do consider heading on down to the Patreon link in the description below, where I'll be offering rewards such as sneak peeks, polls about future content, and also your name on this screen right here that will come at the end of all my videos. Obviously, the more Patreons I have, the more I can afford to make videos like these. But I do hope you genuinely enjoyed this one, because I had a lot of fun making it, and Up is definitely a film that's dear to my heart. If you have any suggestions or ideas for what content could be explored as the topic for the next video, then please do drop them in the comments below, and I'll definitely see what I can do. But that's it for this video. Thank you guys once again, and I hope that you have a great adventure until I see you again.